dare crash on me again, you. Hey there, folks, and this is take 2 of the difference between faith and fanaticism, the difference between belief and insanity. Now, to understand what I'm going at here today, you'll have to understand that there is actually 2 different kinds of belief. There's the beliefs that we believe 100% that are about physical reality. Things fall when you drop them. If you walk into the wall, it'll hurt. Fire is painful. Basic things like that. We all have a whole lot of knowledge about the world that no one would really argue with. And these are the things that we believe solidly, 100% without even thinking about them. But then there's the other kind of belief. The other kind of belief exists in the unprovable area. It's stuff that you might believe or might not, but it can't really be proven to be true or untrue, and therefore people are free to believe these things in order to make themselves feel better. Feel better about their place in the world, feel better about what's going to happen after they die, feel better after where their dead relatives have gone, feel better about how just the world is. And these are things that people believe, but they don't believe them 100%. They don't believe these things to be literally 100% true like the other kind of belief. They're just there to fill in gaps of people's knowledge and make them feel better about whatever. These beliefs can be as simple as people are inherently good, or it can go all the way to I have a personal relationship with Jesus and he talks to me every day. So this is not necessarily only religious belief. That's just the one that gets all the attention these days. But it can be any kind of belief that is not technically demonstrably true. And so if you believe it, you're essentially believing it on faith. You're believing it because you choose to believe it, or because you want to believe it, or because in some cases you have no choice but to believe it, otherwise your entire belief system would fall apart. But the thing about these beliefs is there's an understanding amongst the believers, completely unspoken, totally under the hood, that you act as though these things are true, and you say that they are true, and you tell yourself that they're true, but they're not really, really, really true. They're true like kids playing make-believe pretend that their make-believe world is true. It's true, but it's true that could be discarded at any moment if it comes into serious conflict with the real world. After all, it's belief that's primary purpose is to make you feel better and safer or whatever in the world, to get rid of the fear of the harsh unknowns of the world, or even more so the harsh knowns, and make you feel better about the universe in general. And therefore, most people who believe, even those who believe that they believe very strongly, they don't actually do what logically would be entirely justified according to their belief, because they know that to do so would be crazy. And the fear of being crazy, and crazy is just the most extreme form of being weird, is the biggest, strongest fear we have in society. We have an inherent sense of what is a crazy action and what is a normal person action. And this actually goes deeper than religion or even right and wrong. The fanatic, then, is the person who does what logically the belief justifies and therefore acts as though it's literally real, as opposed to in that nebulous space between real and not real, the realm of make-believe. Therefore, this tends to be a crazy person, because a crazy person is already across the line into crazy anyway. And so they've obviously at some point either lost the ability to tell what's crazy and what's not, or at the very least, they've lost the ability to stop them from doing the crazy thing anyway. And so they're in the prime position to listen to someone talk and believe literally what that person says and act on it. This is true of an environmental extremist blowing up an oil rig in the middle of the ocean and killing hundreds of people, as it is of someone bombing an abortion clinic in order to stop the murder of children. It doesn't matter what the belief is, there's an extreme version of it, and the extreme version will talk about extreme acts as though that would be a great thing. But even amongst these fanatics, even amongst people we'd consider utterly repulsive, like, say, white supremacists, they might talk about what they do if they could, or what would be totally justified, or what would make the world a better place. But they don't actually do it, because, again, they have this sense inside them that you can talk about it, and that's fine, because you're basically just talking to other like-minded people and making each other feel better, and maybe, burning Obama in effigy, or waving around something that looks like a black person hung in effigy. But you know deep down, none of us are actually going to do this, right? I mean, as long as we all don't do crazy things, then we're all free to find whatever slot in society makes us feel best. And for some people, that'll be a kind of an extremist slot. I won't go into why. And it's still just basically a bunch of people having a specific kind of party for the particular kind of community that they're in. And so the person is really just, no matter what they say, no matter even what they say they do, they're basically just like the rest of us. They just have, they have a community. The community gets together, celebrates their beliefs. But the crazy person and the fanatic, they actually do it. Now, lucky for us, most people are not that crazy. Most people have this inner restraint, this understanding that when it really comes down to it, we're just talking. When it really comes down to it, we're normal people like anybody else, and we might talk about doing something extreme or how great it would be if such and such happened, but we're not going to do it because we essentially want to remain good citizens and not crazy evil people. But crazy people don't know this. And luckily this is rare because most people are not that crazy. The Timothy McVeighs of the world are extremely rare. Which is why this kind of thing isn't happening all the time. You can go into the most extreme of extremist camps, and you will still find that most people are not going to actually do the crazy thing. The only reason you get extremist violence is because old men are good at preying on young men who are young, angry, disenfranchised, disempowered, frustrated with the world, and maybe a little mentally unstable to boot, and convincing them to go die. That's where you get these extreme Muslim suicide bombers. Old men, if the old men really believed all that they're telling the young guy, that the most glorious thing in the world is to die for Allah and go to heaven with the 72 virgins and all that bullshit, they'd go do it themselves. Why not? It sounds like a great deal, right? But they don't. They don't because they aren't crazy, and they know that that would actually be, wrong, or at the very least, everyone would think of it as wrong, And so they convince the young, angry, 18 to 25-year-old male with nothing to lose to do it for them. And then, when they get together with their other extremist old men, they can one-up the other old men by saying, well, you know that checkpoint that blew up? Ha! Me. It was my disciples that did that. Sad to think that young men die for the bragging rights of old men, isn't it? And so, if we're really worried about global extremism, and personally, I'm not, because you're more likely to get hit by a truck in your own home than get killed by a terrorist. But if we're going to pretend, at least, that we care about global extremism and that it's a problem, we're going to have to understand this line between the faithful and the fanatic. The world is full of things that people only kind of believe. And once you understand that, a lot of the world of faith and belief makes a hell of a lot more sense. Well, that's it for me today, folks. Talk to you later.
Are there any queers in the theater tonight? Get 'em up against the wall. Now there's one in the spotlight. He don't look right to me. Get him up against the wall.